Alright, so 6th seat. We're almost done. Who gives a shit Nola for Jirchiryo? He actually sent me 2. One was like a real based one, and one was like in the area, like if you're talking like the universe of Bleach. I picked the first one, which is Jirchiryo. Here's a picture of it. It's keto based and has 2 release states. First, the katana grows in length, becomes 5 feet in length from end to end. The guard goes from a design similar to that of the great oak branches to a solid rounded of a square of silver. The handle cords go from black and gold trim to solid black. In this state, the blade uses keto to give the edge of a superior cutting edge. Well, okay, so you're like channeling keto to make it like a kind of like a razor edge. That's kind of sweet. Defensive ability. Oh, it does not act as a beam cannon, as it's hard to make contact to release the energy. All right, okay. Defensive ability known as the Lone Guardsman produces a cone-shaped barrier backwards from the edge of when the sword is stabbed into the ground. Barrier large enough to cover 3 crouched people, as the barrier can only extend out of the blade. Okay, at least you're not going like overboard with like, I can summon a shield to protect all of Louisiana. Because it's just that awesome. Second, the katana completely reforms into a bladed gauntlet. Again, using keto, it can increase the wearer's speed and physical strength. Once again, kind of going back to my love for physical, you know, like a Hakuda sort of thing. No energy is released in targets upon contact. This state is product of the wielder's inner rage. So in time of great rage, the sword changes. This is the product of the wielder's rage. So if the wielder is in enough rage over a sort of amount of time, this sword will kind of like just transform on its own into this physical point. I could totally see like you fighting somebody with your sword and you getting pissed off and you just get like an awesome pair of gauntlets and you just start beating the shit out of somebody. That seems cool. Prolonged use of this state, whether commanded or forced darkness, the wielder's soul changes into the person's attitude and personality will be noticed. Okay, so it kind of messes with your head if you use it for too long. It starts like warping your mind a little bit. That seems pretty neat. Bankai will never be attainable until the wielder can achieve the true balance of his inner light and dark. This also means the Bankai is ever achieved, it can be lost. Okay, so this is like the first time where if you can actually get your Bankai, you can actually lose your Bankai if the balance were to get skewed. So basically you have to be Zen, like in Zen state. You have to be like, meditate a lot, I guess. Release 1 represents light and serenity, and release 2 represents dark and rage. Okay. And then he sends me a story for the character, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But okay. Wayne's inner world is a fog-filled swamp. Some people actually did send me in your inner worlds. I didn't choose to go into them because of the fact that not everyone did it. So I didn't want you guys to feel bad, like, oh, I didn't know we had to send in an inner world. You didn't. I'm just saying it's pretty much like people went above and beyond here. In that world resides the 2 manifestations of the states. There's also talk to Wayne like the devil and an angel on his shoulder. In the inner world, there is a 3rd figure shrouded by the bound to a great swamp of oak trees, representing his bound Bankai. Oh, that's pretty cool. Go in your inner world, you see good guy and a bad guy and another entity chained to a tree trunk. That seems pretty cool. And it's a swamp! Swamps are cool. Okay, almost done. 5th seat is NZANIMEMANGA for Thunder Raith, or Reisu Kaminari. Shikai release. Command is Fade. There's the picture. I remember that immediately. Alright, Reisu Kaminari is an ethereal-looking blade that is not in this plane, i.e. things that can pass through it and can pass through things such as body, Zanpaktou, unimpaired. So it's like a translucent, like a intangible type sword. However, the wielder, by using his or her spirit energy, can materialize the blade with a pulse of the Reisu. When this happens, it's momentarily shredded by sparks. Okay, so it's just its default form is intangible, and you can just make it tangible. It's like kind of like a reverse of the other ability where it's like it's solid, but you can make it intangible. It's kind of a reverse of that. And you can only make it solid for brief periods of time. The lightning keto type has a great advantage in terms of increasing speed and cutting power, but as stated below, it's a double-edged sword, and this is the whole concept. If it's timed right, it can shatter other Zanpakuto by trapping it in between the blades or causing massive damage. So, of course, if you're swinging a sword and it goes, in between, and then you materialize it really quickly with a pulse of electricity of God knows how many volts or amps, snap, snapped. Drawbacks. You have to train masterfully in order to effectively. Of course, you need master timing. You have to master when you're going to send out the pulse and everything. Also, there's a risk-reward element to the Zanpakuto. It takes a fraction of a second to fully materialize, and this means that if you materialize it too late, the enemy Zanpakuto can go through the cloud of the Raith blade, steal your Reisu, and have your own power. Interesting. So, the ability even is possibly for your opponent to have steal your power. That's pretty cool. Bankai not yet achieved, though the wielder shows great promise. That's good. Alright, so 4th seat is... okay, so 4th seat... 4th seat of Squad 101 is Rensa Furosuto for Finikikujiku. Release command, bring down Finikikujiku. Butchered that terribly. Appearance: golden axe-shaped sword with a string extending from the hilt with 2 blue feathers attached to it. The handle is red-colored. Special abilities: in this form, Furuso's Kido abilities are amplified, allowing him to pull off much stronger Kidos. Okay, it's a Kido-type Zanpakuto, and even cause them with his Zanpakuto, like infusing a had 31 into the blade of his Zanpakuto, allowing him to use an energy-like attack. He could swing the blade and use Hado 1 Sho to push his opponents back with great force. Okay, so it's like a Kido type, but whereas we see most Kido type can just like RaitoKurai, for instance. It's a Kido type, but it's not like Hado number 1 or anything. It's kind of like its own specific Kido type. This is kind of like Hinamori's, where it can actually use Kido and is unnumbered while using your Zanpakuto to kind of like, initiate them. That's pretty sweet. Has many options with his Zanpakuto, well, as many options as there are Kido. However, other than that, it's mainly a physical Zanpakuto, meaning its Kido abilities are disabled. He or she is a sitting duck to attack. Alright, I see. Bankai, Finikikujiku Hayabusa, Air Crusher Falcon. In this form, I get a pair of blue feathered wings. Wings always make everything better. And a feathery First Nations headdress that's white and colored and blue colored. I have my sword with me. Oh, I see. It's like sort of like an Indian style basis. That's kind of sweet. My abilities pretty much stay the same, except it's much higher level. However, I can use my wings for attack as well. Okay, so basically it's like the same abilities, except you have wings now, so of course, there's advantages there. I can also use my wings as blades, like Avrima Redder, so, right there. I can shoot razor sharp feathers and fly around. My weaknesses are pretty much the same as before, except that if I lose my wings in combat, then I'm in trouble due to the fact I lose all my speed. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, top 3. If you made it in this far, then you really should be thankful, because I probably lost a lot of sleep over you. Third seat of Squad 101 is Neoblade 80 for Inazuma Senko. And remember, there's 2 third seats in my division, so hold on, because you have a partner. Inazuma Senko, Lightning Flash. Physical description: it looks like a pirate sword. I forget what they're called. They're called scimitars, or something like that. Yeah, scimitar. And has rings on the sword and hilt. It has various lightning designs on the sword and has a hole in the sword closer to the hilt. Did he send me a picture? He might have. I don't think he did. Alright. Abilities. The first ability is called Kaminari no Kiba, Thunder Fangs. Basically where the user does a slash with the sword and lightning surrounds the sword, dealing very heavy damage, similar to how Ichigo does Getsuga Tensho. It's basically like Getsuga Tensho when he used it condensed, like to focus it in the sword, except it's with lightning instead of spirit energy. Its second ability is called Akamandaru, Descend from Heaven, where the user pierces the sword in the ground and puts his hand outward to the enemy, and then a huge jolt of lightning comes and strikes the enemy from above faster than the speed of light. Well, I mean, if you're using lightning, it would be at the speed of lightning, which is 3,000 miles per second, which is still not a very bad speed. It's pretty 3,000 miles per second. That's not bad. You can hit something with that, certainly. Weakness 1. Its first weakness is that it basically needs to hit the enemy in order to take effect, so it would be rendered useless against the enemy like Aizen and such. Its second weakness is that the Zanpakuto is affected by the weather. Okay, that's interesting. If you're in a desert area, it's extremely weak. Okay, so going back to the whole thing with the Rainbow God, it's sort of like it's environmentally based. So, if you're fighting in a desert where there's no humidity, or you're fighting in any area where there's no humidity, you wouldn't be able to initiate the sword ability. You wouldn't be able to use lightning. It doesn't have a Bankai because I really can't think of one. That's my contest entry. I hope you liked it. I liked it. Really liked it. Anyway, moving on to the other third seed in my division, TheLaughingPanda, who also helped me with the contest. Suki Namida. Zanpakuto is Suki Namida, translated to Tears of the Moon. Okay, wait, hold on. Oh, I'm working on my Bankai, but when I do, my Bankai's name is Akira no To. Oh, I forgot to mention, some people actually sent me an entry and then later on sent me like an add-on to their entry. I may not have gotten that in here, but once again, just like, it was like a sea of messages. I may have lost it at some point. I maybe have just didn't see it at some point, but yeah, so if I forgot about like an add-on you sent me and maybe you added a Bankai later, I apologize, but that's what we got. In its sealed state, it's a regular sword and a short sword, each with navy blue wrappings and guards that look like 2 crescent moons facing back to back. To have a dual Zanpakuto, but this is my Zanpakuto and I can do whatever I want. Oh, it's cool. You can have a dual Zanpakuto. There's other people on it. Like, Squad 101 does not conform to the rules. You can have an 8-bladed Zanpakuto. Okay, probably not, because then that might be kind of OP, but whatever. I wear the long sword across my back like Hitsugai wears Hinamori, Hyorimaru. Hitsugai, where's Hinamori? I found that hilarious for some reason. Oh god, now I have to go read some Hinamori Hitsugai fanfiction after this. That's great. I'm sure it exists somewhere. I'm sure it exists. Alright. Okay. And the short sword like Soifun and Rangiku. Okay, so one on your back and one like on your back is in your like your hip sort of. Alright, its release command is Naku, or Cry, and its Shikai, the blades turn from normal silver to black. I can create black water walls that I use to confuse my enemy. They do not look like water and are nearly perfect mirrors. I can use the walls to mirror myself or my attacks, and okay, so kind of like crystal ice mirrors from Haku from Naruto. Because the walls are made out of water, it's possible for me to enemy to figure out that the walls are not, you know, solid, and you can just, you know, break through them. I can create more walls, but when my Ratsu is trained, I cannot create very many. I cannot create a ceiling because the walls are made of water, and the walls cannot extend infinity upward. Okay, that's another thing too. You can't make like a giant water wall to like see your enemy. It's like probably like limited to around the same similar body size you have. I can move through the walls without any effects on my speed, but if I move through the walls, then the enemy will know because the water would be displaced, of course. Okay, so it's kind of like mirror water, where it's like if it's perfectly slate, it looks like a mirror. You touch that shit once and it gets distorted because it ripples, so, you know, major weakness here. I can also move through the walls. My inner world is a flat black lake. Did you put a... Did I cut this? I'm sure she sent me an add-on because this is missing like a weakness. Though again, oh no, she said weakness. She said weaknesses. I'm missing a... Seems like I got more from her. I forget. Anyway, so those are my 2/3 seats. So, one is lightning-based and one is water-based. I did that for a reason. Because technically speaking, you can combine your powers and you can kick ass. You know, like, make a wall of water, and, you know, enemies surrounded by water, and then freaking lightning scream from the, like the top or whatever from, like, you know, the other guy, and... So, you know, like kind of like a lightning prison sort of thing. Okay, so here we go. I'm almost done. I'm one entry away from finishing this 4-month-long contest. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the Academy. I want to thank everybody for doing this. And I want to thank the person who I decided to be my lieutenant in Squad 101, because this is something I finished this like 3 weeks ago, but I spent that long of a time figuring out my, you know, my 3rd seats, 4th seats, and my lieutenant, because this is my right-hand man. Or woman. It could be a woman. So you have to think about this, right? The lieutenant of Squad 101 second in command is Atticus Rez for the Zanpaktou RaitoKurai. Zanpaktou RaitoKurai, meaning light and dark. It's conflict based. Shikai, divide in half, RaitoKurai. Twin kodachis, one white and the other black, that are connected by a chain. The handles are, you know, then he gives the length of the sword. So, and the neat thing about this is, depending on whether they're connected by the chain or not, these two kodachis, the power will change. If they're not connected by the chain, while connected by the chain, the white ability will the white sword will use fire and the black sword will use water. Not what you were expecting there, huh? You were probably thinking like light can control light and black can control gravity or something. And without the chain, black will disappear into darkness and shadows, and so like shadowy attacks, and then white will disappear into light and then use light attacks. Bankai, RaitoKurai Kesu Tenshi, light dark earsing angel. A black and white blade with 3 large spikes along the back and a fire-looking Suba. The design is reminiscent of a moonlit night. Kurai Hindo, a black sunrise. A huge black fire sphere. The many ways to use the sphere will be at the tip of the blade, throwing it at the enemy. The other way is to stab someone and then use the Hindo inside of them. Okay, so stab them, then use the ability and like blow them up. Black sunrise, that was that ability. And white moon. A sphere will appear behind me and any attacks will be... A sphere will appear around me. Any attacks will be just a dream. This includes my own, so as long as you're not in my sphere. Okay, so basically like Izanagi sphere, sort of. So, that's my lieutenant, that's my squad. I hope you enjoyed, because I sure did. you know, I would appreciate if nobody leaves the comments below saying stuff like, you know, like, be a good sport about this. Don't be like, oh, this person copied that person from the anime. Why'd you put them in there? Oh, this person's ability's too OP. Why'd you put them in there? Hey, look, man. 4 freaking months. You know, this took time, so I appreciate whatever. But you know what? I think you guys deserve to know. Oh, by the way, the awards. Okay, here's how this is going to work. Like I said earlier, I can't really send you like 20 people a present because that, like, the shipping costs alone would be crazy. I would love to, but I'm just saying I can't. So what I was going to do was I made these little certificates saying that, you know, you are appointed to whatever squad or whatever, like you are appointed to whatever point in my squad, and then, you know, I'll send that out to you over email. Just send me a message over Gmail and just let me know what name you want me to put on. You want me to put on your YouTube name, your channel name, Facebook, you know, your Gmail, your Google Plus, you know, whatever name you want me to put on there, and then I'll put it on there, and then I'll email it right back to you using Gmail. So my email is right here, so just do that, and I'll email it to you individually. Along with that, you're also subject to the same thing I did the other people. You know, I will, you know, if you want to do a collab with me, that's cool. Just let me know. Of course, I just gave you all shout-outs and everything. Okay, so that's what the reward is. I'm sorry if the reward's not that great, guys, but at the same time, my God, it's insane. I'm just glad it's over. I'm just glad I'm finally done with it. I can just take a deep freaking breath in this hour-long freaking video. So next, the thing I wanted to say was you deserve to know a little bit about your captain. So I'm going to be breaking canonicity right here with my Zanpaktou, because technically I don't have it right now because my dark self stole it, but I'm going to break canonicity right here. And I will explain to you exactly what my Zanpaktou does, because then it'll make more sense why I picked Atticus as my lieutenant when you find out what it does. Alright, so okay, it might sound overpowered at first, but I'm deliberately leaving a bunch of stuff out, because if I just told you that straight out, it would kind of ruin the Dark Mat arc. So when I first explain to you what it does, do not think it's overpowered, because it's really not. You'll understand later. Whenever I get the Dark Mat arc done, you'll understand later. So basically, my Shikai command is Eclipse. And my Zanpaktou's name is Kuroi Taiyo, which basically means Black Sun. Once again, I use Google Translate. I wanted some really cool, you know, like, you know, Black Moon reflected on the something. I just couldn't come up with a cooler name, so I just went with something basic, Kuroi Taiyo. It resembles this. And basically, what it does, it has the ability to control light and darkness, which is kind of what Atticus did. You might be thinking, well, that's kind of overpowered. Well, here's how it works. It works a little bit differently. So, how it would usually work is that with my Zanpaktou, I would refer to each of its abilities as, its abilities lie in spheres that appear along the blade's edge. I can use it as like a regular sword, but I can use spheres that will appear, and how I summon the spheres is I will refer to like Kuroi Taiyo Alpha, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, which are, you know, Greek letters. I kind of go like a Greek cosmic astrological theme with the Zanpaktou. And so basically like Kuroi Taiyo Alpha, which means 1. Alpha means 1. So one sphere will appear like at the tip of the sword, and I can use this in like I can use like the spheres in a diversity number of ways. I can you know, merge the sphere with the sword to make kind of like an energy boost. I can, you know, stab the sphere into the ground and like release like an earthquake underneath the ground. I can actually throw like, see, it's a very I took out Grimmjow. See, like one swing, I take out Grimmjow. You know how badass this sword is. I could swing and like send the sphere off, and it can like explode and, you know, stuff like that. And of course, I can summon more spheres depending on, you know, how many, you know, like Alpha would be 1, Beta would be 2, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon would be 5. I only have a limit of 5 at one point, because I don't want to go into it, because once again, Dark Mat arc, but there's a drawback, and I won't go into Bankai because of that other reason. But the other side of it, the dark side, is the same thing, where I can summon spheres, except instead of controlling light or fire or heat, they control gravity to a sense. And how it works is I'll say like Mavros Alpha, which Mavros just means black. So I'll be like Mavros Alpha, Mavros Beta, and then 2 spheres will appear. The ratio of how it works is that if my spiritual energy is at 100%, each of the light spheres will take up 3% of my spiritual energy. So if I use 1 sphere, 3% goes down. If I use a black sphere, on the other hand, it is 3 times that. It is 9%. So nearly 1/10 of my spiritual energy is used up whenever I use one sphere. So if that were to miss, or if the attack were to be canceled out, I would be, you know, 1/10 of the way from out of there. And I also did like a chart with, like, if I have 80% or more of my spiritual energy, it's I'm in stable condition. If I'm from 60 to 80, I'm mildly exhausted. If I'm from 40 to 60, I'm severely exhausted. If I'm 20 to 40, I'm unconscious, and then anything below 20 goes into, you start going into, like, bad stuff starts happening, like I start going into a coma or death, you know. So of course there's like a chart of how much I can use. So, you know, I can use like 3 black spheres and like take out my enemy, but then I'll like pass out afterwards hardly. So I didn't go really into detail there, but that's as much as I can say, while not going into huge detail with what's going on with the dark mat thing. It will make more sense. The weaknesses will become very apparent when that occurs. But for now, I want to thank everybody who supported me through this whole thing. And yeah, so thanks everybody. You guys are the best fans ever. 5,000 subscribers I'm up to now. Almost 1 million views. I didn't think I'd ever get this far. I really didn't. I didn't think this many people would care about me. There might be a 5K contest, but if we're gonna do that, then we're gonna keep it way simpler. I might not ever do something like this again, because I'm glad you had fun with it, but I sure really, I had fun with it too, but at certain points I just wanted to kind of pull out my hair. Okay, well, it's done now, so I think I'm gonna go, mix this with some alcohol and just get completely drunk over the happiness I'm feeling right now in my body. So thanks everybody for watching. Tekking101 signing out. Squad 101 FTW!